This evening, we're very honored to induct the 19th member into the TADA Hall of Legends. TADA's partner in the presentation of this award is American Financial and Automotive Services. Thank y'all, American Financial, always stepping up. Their founder and owner, Arden Hecklin, along with American Financial executives Dennis Alexander, Rich Wheeler, and Mike Thomas, are here tonight. We recognize them, Mother. Y'all wave your hand. Thank y'all again for being a part of this. Only one dealer out of the thousands who have served Texas over the past 110 years is selected each year to be named a legend. This award goes to the best of the best in this essential industry, and this year's honoree is the one and only C Smitty Smith. We're very proud to have so many members of the Smith family with us today. It's a great automobile family, a great family altogether. And at this time, I'd like to welcome to the stage Smitty's son, Mike, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about our newest TADA legend. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Chairman Buckaloo, for that great introduction. I'm going to tell you, this is a huge honor for the Smith family tonight. As Donnie said, we have over 30 members here of our family, including all the grandchildren except Will, who lives in London. And we have several great-grandchildren who I just told they have 1 minute each to speak at the end. And they said, oh no, we can't do that. But this is really great. So my mother, unfortunately, couldn't be with us tonight. She really wanted to come, but at her age, she said, you know, that's way past my bedtime. So she did tell me before I left her condo the other night, please don't drag out this presentation. And I said, Mom, do not worry. I did not ask Rick Cavender to speak tonight. But before I do get started, I have one thing to say that I'm going to ad-lib a little bit. Albert, don't start the slides yet. Jeannie Janke was my big sister at the University of Texas. And she told me when we were having a cocktail out front, she said, man, I love that tie. And I said, well, you know, when Smitty passed away, all the boys and grandkids went into his closet and grabbed ties. So this is one of Smitty's ties, and I wore it for good luck tonight. All right, let me start my little presentation. I promise you it's not too long, but it is a great honor for us to all be here to honor my father. And I hope over the next few minutes I'm able to give you a small glimpse into his life, what he meant and how he provided for our entire family. William C. Smith Jr., or better known as Smitty, was born the 25th of February, 1921 in Yorktown, Texas. He lived a full life for 90 years. He passed away in July 2011. Our family has been in the automobile business for 102 years. In 1917, Smitty's father, W.C. Smith, established Yorktown Motor Company and became a Chevrolet Cadillac dealer. A few years later, he exchanged Cadillac franchise for Buick. As young boys growing up in Yorktown, Smitty and his brother Newton worked at the dealership, which also had a full-service gas station in front of the showroom. Can you imagine that? Smitty graduated from Yorktown High School, where he said his class was so small that he not only played football, but at halftime he had to play in the band. The following year, he was off to Austin and the University of Texas. He was a member of the ATO fraternity, where he was elected the house manager for 2 years. He was also an early member of the honor organization, the Silver Spurs, the handlers and caretakers of Bevo. While attending UT, Smitty met the love of his life, Lenora Gussman, who was born and raised in Houston. During his senior year, Smitty enlisted as an apprentice seaman, class V7 in the United States Navy. This allowed him to graduate from Texas in 1943 and then report for active duty. He was sent to Northwestern University for a 90-day naval training program, and after completing training, he was promoted to the rank of ensign. During this time, Smitty somehow convinced Lenora to marry him. A young man from a small Texas town, marrying a beautiful, sophisticated co-ed from Houston, Smitty truly was a gifted salesman. They were married in October 1943. Smitty was then transferred to the Little Creek Amphibious Training Base in Virginia. In April 1944, he was shipped to England and reported to Landing Craft 612 as officer in charge. At the age of 23, now think about that, on D-Day, June 6, 1944, carrying 40 demolition engineers, explosives, and 1 tank, Smitty's LCT landed on Omaha Beach. The engineers' jobs were to get ashore and take out the gun placements with their explosives. Smitty's ship, of course, nicknamed and painted on the bow, was the Texas Longhorns. The ship suffered 3 direct hits from German artillery, 1 shell bursting through the port side and exploding in the galley, flooding the engine room and drowning out all 3 engines. Smitty later said, "The Germans shelled our ship because we had the longest name on the bow, and they thought we had to be someone important." The officers and crew, in spite of tremendous gunfire, heavy surf, and strong winds, successfully maintained flotation and deployed the engineers in the tank ashore. However, Smitty and his crew painfully watched as all 40 engineers were gunned down on the beach. The crew was able to winch the ship off the beach, and with the aid of another LCT, they were towed to the battleship Texas, waiting 12 miles offshore. A recommendation was issued for a citation for Smitty, his second officer, and the entire crew for meritorious performance. Now, I had to go to that little app to figure out how you pronounce meritorious. Thank God for Google. Above and beyond the call of duty, and on February 10th, Smitty was elevated to the rank of lieutenant. He was later awarded a Purple Heart for an injury he incurred during battle. This was truly the greatest generation. In 1946, upon being released from the Navy, Smitty used his salesmanship once again and convinced Lenora they needed to move to Yorktown so he could join his father at the dealership. He told her it's just going to be for a few years and then we'll move to Houston and buy a dealership. However, Smitty's father died a year later, and Smitty became the dealer at age 26. Those few years he had promised Lenora turned into 20. Smitty and Lenora had 5 children: Bill, Charles, Lynn, and Ursula, all 14 to 20 months apart. And then 7 years after Ursula, Lenora tells Smitty she is pregnant once again. Being a good Catholic girl, she said, "But it's a gift from God." However, during my high school and college years, Smitty had a lot different description. Finally, in 1965, Lenora convinced Smitty it was time to move the family to Houston. If it weren't for my mother, I'm not sure Smitty would have ever left Yorktown. Every day at noon, he would drive the short 4-minute drive home, eat lunch, take a nap in his reclining chair, and then could be back at the office at 1:30. And besides that, all of his hunting leases were 23 miles from his house. But in the summer of '65, our family moved to Houston. Smitty met Bill Russell, and together they bought out Bill's father and his partner, John Ivy. And Ivy Russell Ford, which was established in 1937, became Russell and Smith. Smitty and Bill Russell will be partners for the next 45 years. A few years later, Russell and Smith moves from downtown to 610 at Main near the Astrodome. In 1973, the dealership is awarded one of the first Honda franchises in Houston. I joined the dealership with Charles and Dad after graduating from the University of Texas, where I also was a member of the ATOs. In the early 80s, my sister Lynn became a Honda dealer in Conroe, and at the time, she was one of the few women dealers in the state of Texas. Charles Smitty and the family began to expand in Texas, and over the next 12 years, dealerships are added in Houston, Conroe, Beaumont, Austin, Round Rock, Dallas, and Mesquite. In 1990, my brother Bill leaves a career in commercial real estate and becomes a partner with Smitty and the Russells. And over the next 22 years, Bill helps the dealership buy additional land and build all new facilities. In '98, Charles is one of the key players in the formation of Group 1 Automotive in Houston. All of our dealerships except Russell and Smith and Conroe roll up and become one of the 3 founding dealer groups for Group 1. Charles loves to tell the story how Smitty, being an old car dealer, said it's a good thing all those dealerships didn't join that public company, because you know, when it doesn't work, you boys will have somewhere to go and work. In '06, I moved back to Houston from Beaumont and joined my brother Bill and Dad at the dealership. After graduating from TCU, my son Jordan goes to work at the dealership to learn the car business. And for the last 8 years, he has worked in every department of our operation. A few months after Jordan joined the company, Charles's son Chase, who graduated from Baylor and worked for the Sewell organization for over 12 years, buys out my brother Bill and Russell and Smith. I like to say we got rid of an old goat and replaced him with a young ram. Chase and Jordan are the 4th generation of our family in the car business. So I went through this family timeline simply to show if Smitty had not moved to Yorktown after the war to learn the car business and did not take the risk 20 years later to move to Houston, I doubt any of his children or his grandchildren would be in the car business today. Our family all knows without Smitty's support and help over the years, we would not have grown our family's business. Smitty loved being a car dealer. He was a dealer for over 60 years. He was a gentleman and treated every employee with respect, no matter their position. Smitty loved his family. He and Lenora were married for 67 years. They have 5 children, 13 grandchildren, and now 28 great-grandchildren with 1 on the way. It was always the grandchildren and later the great-grandchildren that bring the biggest smile to Smitty's face. Smitty had 3 other passions in life after family and the car business: UT football, boating on Lake Travis, and quail hunting. And it'd be very difficult for anyone in our family to rank which one he loved the most. He also had a deep passion for TADA. He served on the board for a number of years and always encouraged all of us to do the same. He said more than once, You need to be involved and support TADA. It is the strongest and most effective association in the nation. In 1989, Smitty was honored as one of NADA's time quality dealers. So in closing, I know if Smitty was with us tonight, he would be humbled and honored to be receiving this award. He was a young man who went to war and fought and defended his country. He was a small-town dealer who loved his community. He was a risk taker, moving to Houston and expanding the family business. He loved the car business. He respected both his employees and his customers, and he was always proud of his growing family. So on behalf of the entire Smith family, I would like to thank the association, its members, in recognizing W.C. Smith as a TADA legend.